Something significant is happening in the automotive world, and it's bigger than a single rebuild project. Ferrari appears to be restricting repair access on a car that Matt Armstrong is working on, blocking him from the parts and systems he needs to finish the job. What started as a rebuild has quietly grown into something far more consequential. We're no longer just talking about a mechanic trying to fix a car. We're talking about ownership rights, legal exposure, and a question the supercar industry has never had to answer publicly before. But to understand why this Ferrari situation has ignited such a strong reaction, you first need to understand what happened just days ago with a completely different car. Because the timing here is everything. Matt Armstrong started Alex's Bugatti Chiron. Let that settle for a moment. A Bugatti Chiron, one of the most mechanically complex, electronically layered, manufacturer-controlled hypercars ever built. A car that Bugatti itself refused to support through independent channels. A car that Bugatti implied could not be properly repaired without direct involvement from their factory team. A car that many credible voices in the automotive world quietly believed would never run again outside of an official Bugatti service center. Matt started it. Without Bugatti's help. Without official parts channels. Without the manufacturer's blessing. When that engine turned over, it wasn't just a car coming back to life. It was proof, concrete, undeniable proof, that independent builders, working outside the manufacturer's ecosystem, can bring even the most sophisticated machines on the planet back to running condition. That moment carried weight far beyond the Chiron itself, because it immediately shifted the conversation to Ferrari, where Matt is now facing a very different reception. The obstacles Matt has encountered on his Ferrari project go well beyond the typical frustrations of a complex rebuild. Ferrari has a long-established reputation for maintaining tight control over who can service their cars, who can access their diagnostic systems, and who can legally obtain the parts required to return a Ferrari to working order. For enthusiasts and independent builders, that system has always been a source of frustration. But in the current climate, with the Bugatti Chiron start fresh in everyone's mind, that frustration has turned into something louder. The reaction from Matt's audience has been striking. Scroll through the comments on his recent videos and a clear pattern emerges. People aren't simply cheering for the rebuild anymore. They're raising pointed questions about manufacturer control, consumer rights, and what legal options might actually be available. Thousands of viewers are openly discussing whether Matt should pursue formal legal action against Ferrari, not as a dramatic gesture, but as a serious and potentially winnable challenge. Their argument is straightforward. If a manufacturer actively prevents an owner from accessing, repairing, or operating a vehicle that owner legally purchased, that isn't just poor customer service. It may constitute a violation of right to repair principles. And in a growing number of jurisdictions, those principles are no longer just talking points. They're becoming law. Right to repair has already achieved real legislative wins in the electronics sector, most notably in the United States and across parts of Europe. The agricultural equipment space is in the middle of its own version of this fight, with farmers taking on major manufacturers over their right to service the machinery they depend on for their livelihoods. And now that same conversation is arriving in the automotive world, with Ferrari emerging as one of its most visible symbols. The proposal gaining traction in Matt's comment sections is pointed. Every time a manufacturer blocks repair access on a vehicle with a legal title, the owner should be entitled to sue for the car's full market value. Not a partial settlement. Not a repaired vehicle. The full replacement value of the car. The logic behind this idea is that if manufacturers face that kind of financial exposure every time they restrict a repair, the economics of control shift entirely. The incentive to lock out independent builders disappears because the cost of doing so becomes unsustainable. Is that realistic? The answer depends on jurisdiction and on exactly how the restriction is applied. There's no single global right to repair law that would make such a lawsuit automatic. But here's what matters. The conversation is happening at a serious level. Legal observers are beginning to engage with these questions publicly. And the idea that this could eventually produce a real courtroom battle is no longer being laughed off. That matters because this story connects to something much broader than Matt Armstrong and Ferrari. Across every major consumer industry, People are increasingly asking the same fundamental question. What does ownership actually mean? You pay full price for a product. You take it home. Your name is on the title, the registration, the insurance policy. But the manufacturer has retained control through proprietary software, restricted parts, required diagnostics, and warranty terms that punish unauthorized repairs. Gradually, without most buyers fully realizing it, the act of purchasing something has become less about owning it and more about being permitted to use it under the manufacturer's ongoing terms. Ownership, in some industries, has quietly become a subscription. People are exhausted by this. And the automotive world, with its high price points, passionate ownership culture, and deeply personal relationship between drivers and their cars, may be exactly where this frustration finds its most public and most consequential outlet. Ferrari, to be fair, has a consistent position on all of this. Their cars are not ordinary vehicles. They are precision-engineered machines built to operate at performance levels that most production cars never approach. Ferrari's argument is that maintaining oversight of how their cars are serviced isn't about control for its own sake. It's about ensuring that vehicles capable of extreme performance are maintained to the standard those capabilities demand. Safety, heritage, and brand integrity are all part of how they frame their approach. That argument has merit on its surface, but it becomes harder to sustain in the current moment for a specific reason. A Bugatti Chiron just started in an independent workshop. If the argument for manufacturer control is that these cars are too complex for anyone outside the official network to handle responsibly, that argument just took a serious hit. Because complexity, it turns out, is not the barrier it was once presented to be. Supporters of Matt are now urging him to do something that would apply pressure in a very specific way. Document everything. Every denied parts request. Every locked system. Every diagnostic tool that requires manufacturer authorization to access. Every step where the path to a completed repair has been deliberately narrowed. In a right-to-repair legal case, documentation is foundational. And Matt Armstrong, almost uniquely among people in his position, has a platform capable of turning that documentation into a public record that millions of people will see and follow in real time. Some observers are thinking even further ahead. If this situation were ever to reach a courtroom, the implications could extend well beyond one car and one builder. A ruling on the limits of manufacturer control over a legally sold vehicle could establish precedent with consequences across the entire automotive industry. It would force a clear answer to a question that has been deliberately left ambiguous. At what point does a manufacturer's authority over their product end, and an owner's rights begin? Right now, manufacturers operate in a gray area that generally benefits them. A legal challenge, particularly a well-documented, publicly visible one, could start to close that gray area permanently. That is the question now sitting at the center of this story. Who actually owns a Ferrari once it leaves the showroom? Is it the buyer, the person who paid for it, insured it, titled it, and drives it? Or does Ferrari retain enough ongoing control over parts, software, and systems to effectively determine what that owner can and cannot do with their own property? Ferrari has never been forced to answer that question directly, in public, under this kind of scrutiny. They may be approaching that moment, because Matt Armstrong is still working. The project is not finished. And every step he takes from here, every obstacle he documents, every workaround he finds or fails to find, is being watched by an audience that is no longer just interested in the rebuild. They're interested in the principle. They're asking whether the person who buys one of the most coveted cars in the world actually owns it in any meaningful sense, or whether they're simply the latest custodian of something Ferrari never fully lets go of. Bugatti has already seen what it looks like when an independent builder proves the official narrative wrong. Ferrari may be next. And unlike Bugatti, Ferrari is now facing this moment with a global audience already primed, already engaged, and already asking the harder questions. The story is far from over. Stay subscribed, because the next development in this one could matter well beyond the world of supercars. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Matt should pursue legal action? Does Ferrari have the right to restrict repairs on cars they've already sold? And if this ever reaches a courtroom, who wins? This conversation is just getting started.